Do you recall recall? Who doesn't at this point in time? And yet there is a more controversy of this application. People have been asking, can you just uninstall this? If I happen to get or need a Copilot Plus PC, can I uninstall this stuff? And today there is a little bit of interesting controversy around that. So let's go ahead and discuss. Welcome back to Switch to Linux. If you like this type of content where we talk about Linux and why one might switch to Linux, including talking about some of the Windows shenanigans going on in the world, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Leave us a like and a comment down below to help with the algorithm. And with that, we are going to dive right on into this fun discussion where we are stuck with Windows recall if it happens to get onto our computer. So, of course, as a brief summary, if you are unaware or forget what Windows recall is, this is a new feature they are adding to the new Copilot Plus PCs, which do require a certain type of processor. What this application does is it uses AI to take regular screenshots roughly every 5 or so seconds, and then it will use OCR, optical character recognition. It will use artificial intelligence and a few other algorithms to effectively create a text-based log, which is searchable and keywordable based on all of the things that the system sees on your computer. It stores this into a little database file, allowing you to use a 3-month record of going back and seeing what precisely you have done over the last 3 months. Of course, we have talked about the initial major controversy on top of it just being creepy and being forced on your system and originally defaulting to the on position. It also turns out after security researchers got their hand on it, before it was supposed to come out, literally they were going to just launch this out on us. Security researchers got it working without the special required PCs and discovered that nothing was encrypted. It was a giant privacy nightmare. Other users on the computer could gain access to it. And all of a sudden, they're like, well, we're going to pull this guy off for a little bit and do some revamping. They did some successful reworking. They are now encrypting everything. We talked about encryption and such on our last video, here where we talked about Windows recall. What they're doing now is they're encrypting it in use, which means that even if the whole computer is decrypted, you still have to do an extra decryption step in order to use the system to do the actual recall. So you have to have Windows Hello set up, which uses either pins or biometrics in order to access the individual database file. So that's good. It also defaults to being turned off, but it is still there. And that is the point of the controversy today, because somebody did ask in the comments, can you at least uninstall this thing if you know you're not going to use it? Well, that is interesting because there was a recent article. A German group who was previewing this actually found an option to uninstall it. If you go to the Verge article, I'll link the Verge article down below. This is the Desk Modder. This is a German site though, so I didn't pull that one up for that reason. You know, I can't read it; it's all German. But if you can read German or you want to open it up and look at it through a translator, you can go ahead and do that. Then they spotted that if you went into the Turn Windows Features On or Off option, then they actually see recall there, the second item in the list. So in theory, you could remove recall from your computer. Now, this caused some speculation. First, is this an EU requirement? Germany is in the EU, and EU does have extra requirements for some software. And in fact, EU recently required them to require a uninstall option for Bing, for Edge, Microsoft Edge. And so was this there because of that? This is a German site after all. So what they showed us is that the Remove Windows Features section had an option to uninstall recall. Now, this feature here, Turn On or Off, is actually an uninstaller system. So you can install or uninstall any of these basic Windows features. So they released this information out there and said, hey, the good news is it does appear as though those of us that do not want to use recall, we will have the option to remove it from our system. That's great. Awesome. Totally good. Whoops. That was an error. But it turns out that no, this was a bug. The ability to uninstall the application that a lot of people say, I don't really want on my computer anyway, it's a bug. So Brandon LeBlanc, who is a senior Windows project manager, issued a statement to The Verge. We are aware of an issue where recall is incorrectly listed as an option under the Turn Windows Features Off dialog in the control panel. This will be fixed in the upcoming update. So here's a feature that many people are like, I might want one of these cool AI-related PCs. I just don't want anything to do with recall. But recall's going to be there whether you like it or not. Sure, you have to configure Windows Hello, which they're doing more and more to try and force you to use that nonsense. And they are forcing it to be there perpetually. And probably we're going to get some of those cute little notification blips that we're supposed to, hey, turn this on. It'll help you recall your features in the past. Of course, there's some questions I have about it. Well, it turns out that, whoops, this was an error. No, you cannot remove this stuff from your computer. So they said it is a bug that you can uninstall this thing that many people have expressed serious concerns about. They say a future update will remove this bug, the ability to uninstall the application that many people don't actually want. So the big question is, why does Microsoft want to keep this feature turned on? That's a good question. And the article over on Tech Radar actually had a little bit of potential speculation down here, which I thought was neat. So if you go down, of course, the top is pretty much everything covered in the Verge article. But down at the bottom, they do mention down here, we feel if this comes to anything, and it may not, this is likely to be part of Microsoft measures to deal with EU privacy and data regulators, more than to give users actually a choice of what they should present in their installation. So it's still possible that EU members might still have this option, but the rest of the world will probably not, just because this is something that has the potential to collect a lot of information. We talked in our last week's video about OneDrive turning itself on. In one instance, it appears somebody accidentally clicked the turn on the notification system. And in another instance, of course, in June, it actually did start turning itself on for a lot of people, unawares to them. So Microsoft has taken a copy of your files, even though you did not explicitly consent to them to do that. And once they're on Microsoft servers, they are not zero knowledge end-to-end encryption. So the files are on there. So if some, you get caught up in some geofence warrant because you have to run by a bank on your morning jog every day, and they capture you up in this thing and say, oh, we want a record of everybody who's there, and they go, oh, there's a Microsoft account. Now they can literally gain access to all the files on your computer. Whether they're harmless files or not, it's still none of their business. And Microsoft basically stole a copy of those to hand over to anybody who might want them, or their own rogue employees. We saw more of those coming up in the last couple of weeks. So if recall is there, this is the speculation I wanted to mention here. If recall is right there in the OS, it makes it more likely for folks to use it. Quite simply, Microsoft won't want a situation where the feature can be completely ripped out. So if a user happens to be mulling over using it down the line and they took it out before, it feels like an extra hassle to reinstall recall, maybe leading them to not bother. So it is effectively a dark pattern. They are preventing the removal of this highly invasive spying software as a dark pattern to make it easier to turn it on if somebody wants to, or accidentally, or, hey, in our speculation, as I had mentioned before, I speculate they might just, like OneDrive, toggle it on one day without you knowing. System update turns it on. Oh, whoops, it's just a bug. Now, of course, they are very clear and they say, hey, everything stays right on the computer. Maybe. That database file we mentioned, that is such a small file. It's just text. That's such a small file that can easily be transmitted to their servers without you knowing about it. Hey, we don't have your pictures. We just have that database. Of course, they could then scan the database and see if they want. That's all speculation. But is it speculation that has any basis of truth? Well, it's the type of things we've seen companies like Microsoft do in the past. I'm not saying they're doing it. I'm saying it's a greater possibility that if the system is there, it's not allowing us to remove it. They could actually accidentally turn it on one day. They could accidentally grab the database file as part of their data backups. I mean, you don't want to lose that after all. That's an important, critical part of your workflow. We can't possibly lose that. We got to save that in your OneDrive backups. Come on. You got to have that data if you happen to have a broken PC and you need to reset everything. I mean, come on. What are you going to do if you get a new PC and you still can't remember what you did 2 months ago? Jeez. That's the speculation, of course. And to me, that is valid speculation. And these are some of those reasons why I left Windows behind. I wanted a computer that, A, stays out of my way. I want to be transparent to the background. I didn't care if it was Windows 8. Windows 8 didn't bother me. The little start menu tile thing didn't really bother me. I just wanted the system that when I'm working, it stays out of my way. The modern incarnation of Windows don't stay out of your way. It'll give you notifications to try OneDrive, give you notifications to try Microsoft Office, do all sorts of other weird crap, and then push advertisements and feature upsells inside of every little small corner and square inch of the system, except for, curiously, Skype. Haven't figured that one out. But anyway, they have. I switched to Linux because I wanted control. That was the first thing. I want to have a distraction free. Number two, and actually the biggest reason for me, I did not want a system with telemetry that is constantly grabbing data. Oh, it's just basic system information. We're sending it on up. No, I don't care if it's basic system information. I don't want my computer transmitting any data through the internet unless I explicitly tell it to transmit data through the internet. That's my desire. Why can I not have a button to say, nope, not interested? Oh, it might make it system harder. It might make it more difficult to figure out what the bugs are. Newsflash, don't care. I use Linux. Clearly, I don't care. I mean, really. But that being said, I want a system that does not spy on me. I want a system that does not delete my files. That's something Windows 10 did. Oh, we don't think you should have this file on your computer. We're just going to go ahead and delete it for you preemptively. Okay, sure, thank you. We see you have Microsoft Office 2000 installed. Dude, that's kind of old. We went ahead and removed that for you. Here's a discount to buy the new version. No, the old one was fine, thank you. I actually did work with somebody a couple years ago, going back a while, when Windows 10 first rolled out. Their Windows 7 upgraded to Windows 10 without their knowledge or consent, and it deleted their Office program. I went on over and installed LibreOffice for them. Yep, that worked just fine for them. And so I want a system that I have control over. It's not spying on me. It's not being my nanny. And I have full control over the system. That's why I like Linux. If I happen to want some software on my Linux computer that collects all this type of data and allows me to browse through it, guess what? There's an option. It's called OpenRecall. In fact, it even works on Windows and on Mac. So OpenRecall is an application. It's fully open source. It's cross-platform, Windows, Mac, and Linux. I don't know. Anybody get this working on BSD? Let me know. Privacy focus, your data is stored locally on your device. No internet connection or cloud is required. In addition, you have the option to encrypt the data on a removable disk for added security. They have a wide range of hardware, and so you can use it for more things. Oh, look at this. Here's Elon Musk in a Black Mirror episode, definitely turning this feature off. So here's Nadella at Microsoft says, Windows PCs will have a photographic memory feature called Recall that will remember and understand everything you do on your computer by taking constant screenshots. Yep. Oh boy, I love that. I think that has been recently added. I don't remember if that was on there last week when I did a video. Of course, they didn't comment on the Simpsons stuff. You know, of course this is good. It's got a Simpsons clip in it, right? So time travel, local first AI, semantic search, full control over your storage, free, and it's not tied to any system. So if I want some feature like that on my Linux computer, guess what, guys? I can have a feature like that on my Linux computer. That's perfectly fine. That's awesome. So that is certainly a feature. I have full control over my computer. If I want to remove the network stack from my Linux system, guess what? I can remove the network stack from my Linux system. Hey, one of my computers, I switched the entire audio profile from one thing to the other. I just take a couple commands. It's done. There is no phoning home on my Linux computers. I do not have to worry about it going back and sending system resources and information. Of course, except Ubuntu's added that feature in lately, right? They have their new, not new, it's a couple years old now. You first install it, it's like, hey, we would like to send a bunch of system resources out to show what type of computer you have. No, thank you. I'm not interested. Outside of that weird niche case, there are features I can turn on if I want to supply such data, but by and large, they are opt-in, not opt-out. So for the most part, your Linux systems by default are not phoning home. They're not reporting system usage. They're not deleting your software automatically for you. They are not removing your files automatically for you. And here's another fun one: no forced cloud integration. Microsoft keeps on pushing OneDrive all over the place. It's forced cloud integration. They're turning it on, grabbing copies of your files. Now, if I want to use some form of cloud integration here on Linux, I have the option to do that under most desktop environments. Most of the modern desktop environments, we have an online account system. We can tie it to Microsoft. I can tie it to Google. In my case, I tie mine to Nextcloud. You can tie it to a few other services out there, but you have the ability to tie into cloud resources if you want them, but nothing ever forces or tries to coerce you to do that. These are the reasons I switched to Linux. I don't want anything to do with a massive bloated software suite that they could toggle the switch on and accidentally record data of everything I've done on my computer for the last few months. I just don't want a system where that is the case. And honestly, I have been running perfectly fine on Linux for several years now. I have one Windows computer that I oftentimes just use for tutorials these days. I've booted up once in the last 6 months, guys. Mostly that was to charge it and make sure it had all the updates it had, because it's Windows. It wants that all the time, right? I don't use Windows for anything. I don't use Mac for anything. I use purely Linux. I successfully manage all my businesses, all my work, all my entertainment, everything I need to do. It is very possible to do on Linux. Now, I don't work for a company that dictates I use one specific software package, but I am a freelancer that works with a lot of companies, and guess what? They send me documents and files, whatever else. I have full control of all this. I can go ahead and work with what I want, send it back. They don't even know what system I use. It works, guys. It works. And that's what I would encourage you guys to do. So if you like this type of content, you want to see more tips and tricks about switching to Linux, things you can do on Linux and why you might want to switch, go and subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Leave us a like and a comment down below. And with that, I will leave you with a video on slowly switching to Linux, the best way to go. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.